an image of the face on Mars, and they labeled it head. And this photograph was quickly dismissed by NASA as a trick of light and shadow. It's not really a face on Mars, it's just a lighting angle difference. Wrong answer. Here we have a face in pyramids on Mars, a sphinx in pyramids in Egypt. There has to be a connection, a Mars-Earth connection.
To the scientists, though, it was just a natural feature.
This is the kind of thing that we see on the Earth in various places. There's a famous one in New Hampshire in the United States called the Old Man in the Mountain. And there's a tendency among us humans to try to see images of ourselves in nature. And here was a perfect example, but happened to be on Mars.
The common sense explanation is simple. Human beings are just hardwired to recognise faces, even when faces aren't there. Over to a psychologist to explain.
Faces are very important to humans from infancy. They're so important that we perceive faces even in a stimulus that is not a face. For example, this plate of eggs in front of me looks very much like a face. We can see eyebrows, two eyes, a nose, and a mouth very readily. Well, when I look at the first image that was taken of the structures on Mars, I see it very, very clearly as a face. Here's an eye, here's the bottom part of a nose, here's the outline of a face. This is a low-resolution image, and I'm quite convinced by that interpretation. However, when I look at the more recent image, which is a much more high-resolution image, I'm very hard-pressed to see that as a face. Now, could I see it as a face? I could. I could go and look for the same features that I saw in the first image and try to pick them out here. But in the high-resolution image, where it is not very ambiguous, it is much harder to perceive this as a face.
We now have exquisite images of the surface of Mars that are being taken as we speak, in fact, by the Mars Express spacecraft. And we see extraordinary detail on the surface of that planet. But we see no evidence of anything artificial.
So Mars may not have a sphinx, and it probably doesn't have any pyramids. And so far, it hasn't got any signs of life at all. So where do the ancient aliens come from? It's time to consult someone who should really know. An alien herself. Lisa Royal Holt, a cosmic medium, claims she can communicate with aliens. Apparently, she hooks up to the extraterrestrials by putting herself into a self-hypnotic trance. She says she's been doing it for years.
It wasn't until I was in college when I was studying hypnosis, and I learned to put myself in an altered state. And when I did that, I started to realize that I was very intuitive and that sometimes I would receive messages. I'm able to actually hear or sense the communications and then verbally communicate them.
Right now, her favourite phone buddy is a female alien called Sasha, who takes over Lisa's brain and communicates through Lisa's voice.
We are about to do a channeling session. I will go into a meditative state. You are going to hear from Sasha, who says she's from the Pleiades.
You mean the Pleiades, a cluster of stars in the constellation of Taurus, otherwise known as the Bull. Tell us, Sasha, if it's not too personal a question, what do girls from the Pleiades look like?
In my world, I actually do have what you would know to be a physical body, though it exists in a slightly different dimension. I could walk down your street and pass as a human, but you would probably look at me and feel there was something strange about me.
Sasha says her people were intergalactic empire builders who roamed the universe thousands of years ago, taking over other planets and building vast monuments as they did. Ironically, one of their first colonies was apparently on Mars.
We used some of the bases there as colonies. What has been found now on Mars represents the tip of the iceberg of what is still on Mars.
But Mars was merely a stopover for Sasha's people. She says they soon turned their attention to us.
My forefathers thus have been very interested in Earth for a very, very long time.
It's time to find out the answer to the biggest question of all about the ancient astronauts. Why did they come here? According to Sasha, they may have been up to more than building monuments and starting civilization. Could they have created the human race? If alien astronauts really did visit us thousands of years ago, and that's rather a big if, then the obvious question is why?
What is it?
I don't know.
Well, according to Lisa Holt, or rather her alien mate Sasha, there's a perfectly sensible answer. The aliens chanced upon our pre-human ancestors, and then started messing with our DNA, a process she calls upliftment.
My sources have said that the extraterrestrial genetic projects on Earth have been going on for thousands of years. If your pre-humans were not uplifted by extraterrestrial genetics, your evolution as human beings would not have progressed as far as it has. You would still be in the evolutionary phase if it was not for the little bit of upliftment that was done.
Lisa and Sasha are not the only people to believe this theory.
They came here 300,000 years ago, created a primitive worker based off the Neanderthal man that was here evolving naturally, and created us.
So an extraterrestrial crew comes here. They take one cell. They change the DNA code in the cell. You put it in the womb of a female of the same species. This female will give birth to a child. It's just what we would call the missing link.
If the believers in ancient aliens are right, then evolution didn't gradually create humans. We were instead cooked up in the alien equivalent of a test tube. Spooky stuff.
To me, that explains so much. And it also explains psychologically a sense of abandonment that the human race seems to feel. That these beings helped in our creation, but then never allowed us to remember who our parents were.
Now, it all might sound like cobblers, but the notion of visiting aliens as godlike creators takes alien conspiracy ideas to their ultimate conclusion. And for author Brian Appleyard, it even hints at the role aliens now have in our culture.
The idea that aliens once visited Earth and gave us this technology, this capacity, and pointed us up some progressive path, showed us the way to go, is a great idea for people to hold on to. Because one of the problems of the modern world is that people don't have anything to hold on to. And the story of ourselves we're given by science is frankly that we're nothing, it doesn't mean anything. The thing about the alien in the past is that it gives us a story. And that's fundamental to what people need to believe about themselves.
Whatever comfort the idea that aliens visited us in the past gives some people, chances are it never happened. But hey, if it did, then maybe, just maybe, the greatest monument they left behind wasn't a giant feat of engineering, like the pyramids, but a brilliant little piece of genetic engineering called us.